What a difference 30 some years can make in your life and in your heart. Hey there, and welcome to Real Chicks TV. I'm your Real Chick Carla, and this is your home for all things beauty, makeup, skincare, fashion, lifestyle, all those girly things for the woman over 40. If that's you, go ahead and subscribe and hit that subscription box and go ahead and hit the notification bell next to it so that you'll never miss one of my upcoming videos. And to say I'm excited about today's video isn't an understatement. This is a collab that I'm doing with my dear friend Susan from the channel Little Poet. Little Poet is the perfect name for her channel because she is a poet in so many different aspects. She doesn't just make videos, she makes short cinematic films that just capture your heart and tug at your soul and touch you deep down inside. She shares so much of her life. Yes, she talks about makeup and skincare and fashion. She talks about those, but she always tells a story about her life, weaving those elements into it and really leaving you feeling uplifted at the end of each and every single video. So first, I want to say thank you so much to Susan for inviting me to collab with you today. And second, I want to encourage you to go and visit Susan's channel. I'll have her video for this collab and her channel in the description box below. And you always want to check out the description box because I'll always have things for you there, like links to what I'm wearing, the makeup of the day, discount codes, coupon codes, and things like that. But most importantly, you're going to find Susan Little Poet's link. So that's what you need to check out today. So be sure to go on over after this video, check out her video, and tell her that I sent you and said hello. So what are we doing today? This is a most interesting collab. We have taken a movie that we saw years ago. Each of us has chosen a different movie. And we've taken something that we saw as a young girl, and we're now looking at it through the eyes of a mature woman. Do we see it the same? Has the message changed for us? Have we learned anything throughout our lives that we can apply to the movie, or is there a message in the movie that we can now apply to ourselves that we couldn't when we were younger? I chose the movie An Officer and a Gentleman, and oddly enough, it is not one of my favorite movies. It's okay, but it's not one of my favorite movies, but I believe it has some very powerful messages to it. And I think one reason that I chose it is because I was born and raised in Norfolk, Virginia, and that is the home of the world's largest Navy base. Yep. The largest Navy base in the world is in Norfolk, Virginia. And that's also Virginia's largest city. So all things Navy pull at me. And An Officer and a Gentleman in a nutshell, is a movie about two young officer candidates who are working their way in officer candidate school to become naval pilots. And along the way, they meet two girls in the local area where their training is, and Wikipedia describes them as local tramps. I'm just going to call them townies. But they're warned by their gunny sergeant, their drill sergeant, they're warned, be careful for these local girls because they want to get out of here and get a better life for themselves, and you're their meal ticket for it. So they will do anything, he tells them, to trap you. They'll pretend to be pregnant. They'll actually get pregnant on purpose. They'll do anything that they can to trap you into marrying them because they want a Navy officer husband. This film came out in 1982, and certainly a lot of those attitudes have changed now, but I also think too how far we've come as women, but I'll get to that in just a minute. That's the basic premise of the movie. And it was a blockbuster hit. And when I first saw it, it came out when I was 14 in 1982. And when I first saw it, I was 18. And I'll be quite honest with you, I was very judgmental of that movie. I saw them, particularly the women, as a bunch of skanks from the wrong side of the tracks, who were desperate, who were scuzzy, slutty, and I was very judgmental of them and their character, or what I thought was a lack thereof. And I just rewatched the movie again yesterday. And while I still have some judgments about some things, all these years later, I have more of a compassionate heart and more of an understanding of what that sort of desperation must feel like. No, I've never been that desperate, but I feel sorry for any woman who does. And I also think, wow, how we've changed as women. You know, in 1982, the goal of those women in that movie was to snag a pilot husband. And now here we are in 2019, we don't have to snag a husband. And if we want a pilot in our lives, we can go become that Navy pilot ourselves. How far we have come, how many strides we have made, and isn't that wonderful? And yes, there are still women out there who are looking for a man to up their station. That's something that even after all these years, I can't relate to. I've never been desperate for a man, but I can tell you that I've been desperate for love. When I was a young girl, when I first saw that movie at 18, there were a lot of things I had not experienced yet. Depression was one of them. And when I was in my 20s, depression hit me hard, and it hit me full force, and it was coming for me, and it wasn't going to stop until it got me and pulled me as low as a person could go. And because of that depression, I found myself in less than perfect relationships because I thought I was unlovable. I thought I was broken. And so I was never desperate for a man to save me, but I did truly just want to be loved. I just wanted to be loved. And now I look back at that movie and I look back at the emotions that it evoked in me, and I so feel sorry for my 20-something-year-old self. But yet I feel a tremendous amount of pride for how far I've come 30-some years later, knowing that I have the tools now to keep my depression under control and at bay. And sure, I still have sad days, and sure, I still have hard days. Everybody does. And if you're prone to depression, you're going to have those. The thing is, though, you can get through them. And I've learned those tools to get through them. And I've also learned that because I've gotten my depression under control, I'm not desperate for love. And I'm not unlovable. And I'm not undesirable. And I'm not all those terrible things that I used to tell myself in desperation. There's something extremely special about growing up with the world's largest Navy base in your backyard. It's majestic. There's no other way to describe it other than majestic. And you see those huge jets on the aircraft carriers, and you see the bombers in the sky, and I can remember times that the planes would fly so low to the ground we thought they were going to touch the tops of the trees, and the whole house would shake in the house that I grew up in. And the homecomings, when all of the sailors would be standing out on the decks in their dress whites, and it was just an absolute beautiful, beautiful sight. Something that I did take away from the movie is I've always known how tough it was to be in the military, and I've always had a huge appreciation. In fact, I had a master sergeant once tell me that I was the most patriotic person that he knew, and that is the highest compliment and highest honor that I have ever received in my entire life. But one thing that I guess realized is just how much they go through in their training to defend us. How much pain and emotional toil and physical toll is taken on them as human beings to defend our freedom in this wonderful country, and that's something we should not take for granted. And I will tell you too that I dated a few officers in my time. I remember one young man in particular named Steve. I was crazy about Steve. Oh my gosh. Steve was handsome. He was a commander. He was brilliant. He had a PhD from Berkeley. He was the whole package. And we had a good 6-month run. And then he got deployed and restationed to Puerto Rico, and I never saw him again. I wonder what happened to him sometimes. I hope he made it. There have been a lot of conflicts since then. A lot of things have gone on. I'm sure he went on to become an admiral because he was a very young commander, and success was without question his pathway. He was on the quick path to success. But Steve didn't love me. I was crazy about Steve. Steve didn't love me. And that's okay, because not everybody loves everybody. Sometimes you're just meant to have a good time and make some good memories, and not all dating relationships work out. But again, I was not trying to snag Steve as the women in the movie. I was not trying to entrap him. And one of the women in the movie goes so far to the point of trying to trap this man into marrying her that she fakes being pregnant. She lies and tells him that she's pregnant. To this day, that is something that I cannot relate to doing. And how hollow and how empty you must feel inside if that's something that you feel you have to do to get a man to be with you. That you can't just have a man that just loves you, that you have to trap him in some way. And that's so very sad, isn't it? And again, how far we have come. Something that very few people know about me is that before Big Daddy, I was actually married once before. I had a very brief first marriage. And I was indeed married to a Marine. He was an officer, but he was not a gentleman. And I married him because I was rebounding from someone else who I desperately loved. Not Steve, but a different man who was a true great love for me. And I eloped. I didn't tell anyone. I kept it a secret for months. I was embarrassed. I knew it was a stupid thing to have done. And by the time anybody found out that I had run off and gotten married, it was about 6 months later and we were on our way to a divorce. But for a short time, I was a military spouse. And I realized a little bit about what military life is like, not only because I grew up with it in my backyard, literally, but because I was married to it for a short time. It's not everything that is romanticized in this movie. It's hard. And hats off to all military spouses, because you are serving as well. It's not just your spouse that's serving, but you and your family are serving as well. But it made me think, as I was watching the movie, it made me think of the scene that where Zack, who the main character played by Richard Gere, Zack Mayo, his drill sergeant is on him hard, fast and furious, trying to get him to quit, trying to get him to drop out. And he refuses to drop out. And he's making him go through all these exercises that are incredibly painful, trying to get him to quit. And at one point, he tells him he's not going to quit. And he looks up at the drill sergeant and he says, "I got no place to go. I got nowhere else to go. I got no place else to go." And he breaks down. And I realized that I did that first marriage because I thought I had no place else to go. I thought there was nowhere else and no way out for me. That was incredibly unfair to myself, and it was incredibly unfair to the man that I married. So my apologies for that. I owe him an amends. I owe myself an apology as well, and I owe myself forgiveness for that. But we were young, and we were stupid, and we made a mistake. So that's just one of the ways that my life has changed in the 30-some years since I first saw that movie. And now I look at it and I think, yep, it's a great love story to a degree, because in the end, Zack, played by Richard Gere, and Paula, played by Deborah Winger, end up together. They both have a breaking down of their exterior shells, and they come to realize that they do indeed love each other. And of course, there's that iconic scene where he picks her up in the factory and carries her out into the sunset, and she takes his military cap and she puts it on her head. And I will tell you, there's nothing prettier than that dress white uniform. Oh my goodness, nothing prettier than that. When you see a man in that dress white uniform, it's hard to not get weak in the knees. Believe me, I know from experience. So what's my takeaway from this? Again, I go back to how incredibly strong we have become as women, and how proud I am of not only myself, but of all of us as women, and the strides that we have made, the accomplishments we have made. We have women in space now. We have 2 women in space right now doing the first mission of its kind with 2 women. Look at how far we've come, that we don't have to be desperate for a man. And we don't have to think to ourselves anymore, I've got no place else to go. we can come to ourselves. We can go inside and find what we're looking for. We can find the love within ourselves, the confidence within ourselves, and everything that we need is right here. So thank you so much to Susan from Little Poet for inviting me to collab with you. Susan, I love you dearly. You are someone who gives so much of yourself to your subscribers, to your viewers. You truly touch hearts and lives, and you change them, including mine, and I thank you so much for that. So as soon as you finish watching this video, head on over to Little Poet's channel. You're going to love her video. I'm not exactly sure of what movie that she's doing, but she's going to have a reflective journey just as I did. And I promise you that she will touch your heart and touch your soul in a way like no one else on YouTube ever has. She has that ability to connect with you, and you will be a better person for it. And I'm a better person for knowing her. Thank you so much for joining me today. It always makes my day so much more special when you join me and when you keep me company. And if you've come over from Susan's channel, many, many thanks to you. I'm honored to have you here. It truly is a joy. I hope that you'll stick around and hit that subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so that you'll never miss one of my upcoming videos. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under Real Chicks TV, so be sure to follow me there as well. I post every day on those. I only post twice a week on YouTube, but I post every day on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, so be sure to follow me over there. Until next time, keep your head, heels, and standards high. I'm Carla from Real Chicks TV. Much love to you. Bye-bye.